sports, entertainment, and more. Joined by America's favorite Jersey girl, Robin DiLauri. It's the King and
Welcome to King and the Cop. It's February 6th. I'm Tommy Cetnar. The King, Jim Leyritz, is with us, and Jersey girl Robin DiLauri is off tonight. How you doing, King?
Doing good. Finally getting back home and getting settled here in California. The first month of January was a little good and bad, good and busy with a trip to Hawaii from the 1st to the 8th, and then I did 11 days in Tampa for the Yankees fantasy camp for the men and the women. So
yeah,
finally back home for a little while.
Make a lot of people happy doing that. That's become a decent business for all these ball teams now. They're all holding these fantasy camps, but nothing like the Yankees. I mean, I guess you started it. The Yankees started it, correct? The fantasy camps?
Yeah, I mean, they were the original. I think Moose Gower and Hank Bauer Mickey Mantle used to have a separate camp that wasn't part of the Yankees. And then the Yankees started, once they saw how popular Mickey's was, they started doing theirs, but Mickey never joined them. Totally kept that camp separate till probably about 8 years ago.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, where are the likes of the names of Moose Scourin anymore? How's that for a baseball
Moose
name?
and Hank and all those great guys. Yep.
No.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting over the next few years for, I think, Old Timers Day. There's not a whole lot of guys left. Reggie probably won't come back with everything that's happened with him. Donnie's already coaching, so he's still never available to come, unless of course they're playing Toronto that weekend, which usually doesn't happen. And I don't think you're going to see the likes of the Jeters and the Posadas and those guys really wanting to come back. There's really, I'll be interested to see. I know this year they're doing the 25th anniversary of the 98 team. At some point, and I'll be curious to see, does Jeter come back? Do they invite Roger Clemens?
Jeter, Jeter said basically that we were going to see a lot of them. I'm not sure what that means. I don't know if I lost you there, but I'm by myself here. Can you still hear me, Mr. Leyritz? So I lost the King, but anyway, it's Super Bowl week here on the King and the Cop, and the Chiefs and the Eagles are getting ready for what'll be quite interesting to see if they draw. Like, I don't know that the average fan was rooting for the Eagles Chiefs. I know the Bengals, Cincinnati. There was no New York. Of course, Philadelphia. You're back. I'm talking about Super Bowl week.
Oh.
Do you think that the Chief and the Eagles are attractive enough for the Super Bowl holiday?
Listen, this is
got ripped off as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of controversy as far as the referees go in that game. But the bottom line is you got the two number one seeds playing against each other in both leagues. And, it's been, I think, I'm looking at my thing, it's been since 2017 since the number one seeds for both leagues are playing against each other. And that happened to be the Eagles and the New England Patriots back in 2017. So
right.
I think it's great that we have probably the two teams that were the best, even though the Bengals were playing the best towards the end. But I think with Patrick Mahomes and of course Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts has been silencing the critics all year long, and to have this matchup between him and Mahomes, I think it's going to be an exciting Super Bowl. They're playing in a neutral field, so it takes away some of the home field advantage for both teams. But I also think in that situation, Philadelphia's defense is stronger than KC's, and that might be the difference in this game.
Well, true, but what about Philadelphia's quarterback? I mean, he's hit or miss later in the year. He was unbelievable throughout the year, but then the last few weeks, he was a little inconsistent. So does he get the Super Bowl jitters? I beg this question. The Super Bowl must be like a Game 7 World Series, right? Because it's one or done. And do you feel that the pressure, Jimmy, just every minute of that game is pressure from the kickoff right to the last couple minutes of the game? Do you think he can hack it, or Mahomes is just Superman on one ankle?
Yeah, I mean, listen, KC definitely has the experience of being there before. But the bottom line is I really think that Jalen Hurts time and time again. I mean, when he was hurt, they went 1-2. You
Yeah.
know, he comes back and they win. He didn't look pretty, but you know what? They won. And to me, that's the bottom line. And like I said, I think with their defense, I think, you know, they have a decided advantage on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that could make the difference. But then again, they haven't played the likes of a guy like Mahomes. So
Right.
I think that's, you know, that's where, if you're a betting person, everybody's like, what are you betting? I'm like, listen, I'm not betting win or lose. I can't tell you who's going to win this game. And I think the line's 2.5. And so that tells you that even the experts don't know.
Right.
So again,
you can't be rooting for the Eagles. You're a Giant fan, and you know, it's just a little knife twister if the Eagles win. But South Jersey, our audience, you know, they're all green after you go past maybe exit 82 here. So Jersey people are in the house.
I'm in a little different situation. Right? I am a Giants fan, but I'm also a Bengals fan.
Right.
And KC beat my Bengals.
Right.
Yeah, so I just can't. I love Mahomes. I think he's great. I love Kelsey, but I just can't root for
Which
them.
Kelsey?
Yeah, I know which Kelsey. I like the other Kelsey's team better. And I would like to. I'm kind of a guy that, just like when the Yankees lose and they get knocked out of the playoffs and the Mets are still left, I'm going to root for the Mets because it's a New York team. I'm going to root for Philly because it is my league and it's my division. And if we got beat by the best team, hey, you know what? We had a good year.
You're going to get some. You're going to get some crap thrown your way for making that statement. Speaking of that, what about the Kelsey brothers? How, you know, to have two brothers in the NFL, and now is it? I believe it is the first time that they're playing against each other. Not the Kelsey brothers, any brothers against each other in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, first time in a Super Bowl it's ever happened. You know, there's all kinds of scenarios. You got Andy Reid going up against his old team.
I know where he got fired.
You know, and of course, you know, I always put Hurts and Mahomes, and it's the doubters versus the haters.
Yeah.
You know? And so for me, there's a lot of great stories in the Super Bowl. And here's the other thing, T. The waste management is there also.
I know. I mean,
it's got to be going nuts right now.
I know. You know, I know we've both played there. I mean, I love that course, and that's a fun time. But we'll bounce around a little bit. But to your point of the waste management golf tournament, the PGA tournament, we were talking before off the air. I watched, and I posted something on Pebble. Robin took me there 3 years ago for my birthday. It was the best trip I ever been on, and it is the eighth wonder of the world, Pebble Beach.
Oh, God.
And here I turn on the TV. We were down in D.C. and had some downtime, and I'm looking to watch good old Pebble. And the only name not that I'm a golf fan, so I recognize names, but the only name that really jumped out at me was Jordan Spieth early on. Where did everybody go? You know, I mean, that used to be a tournament to play, and I know it was the celebrities, but even the celebrities were just B celebrities that were playing in it. You know, they could let Cetnar and Leyritz play, for God's sakes.
There you go. Yeah, you know, it was a little disappointing. I think, like you said, when you talk about Pebble Beach, when you talk about Spyglass, when you talk about those courses right there, you're talking about some of the greatest courses, not in the United States, but in the world.
Yeah.
And for it not to be represented well enough I actually think it gives the Live Tour even much more credence to say,
Agreed.
Look, PGA can't even put these top players in some of their greatest courses. You know, why is that not happening? And, you know, I just think that, listen, I'm glad to see Justin Rose win. You know, it's been 4 years since he had won a tournament. It was good to see that. But yeah, you know, it just didn't have that. And being out here in California, all over the newspapers, all over everywhere was the disappointment that California had, because the tournament isn't as big as special as it used to be. And hopefully they can change that as the years go on.
Well, the week before they were in Torrey, and you know, another great course, which you're very familiar with, and so am I. Again, not star-studded. This week, it'll be interesting to see who shows up there. I'm sure it'll have maybe they won't. You know, all the Mickelsons that used to have so much fun won't be there for that tournament. And then I think they head down to Riviera, right? They're in LA after that. And that's always a fan favorite. Yeah, you're right. I mean, but it's like, where do you watch these guys on the Live Tour? You don't. Nobody's picked them up yet. It's in plain words, a real pissing contest. What's going on there? I mean, I don't know. It hurt the game. It really did hurt the game. But then I read today, Jimmy, and you can relate to this because you guys went on strike, so the guys of today would have a better life, which we were talking about before, which they do. Did Mickelson bring all of a sudden the PGA found a bunch of money, more money for these guys?
You know, it's funny, T. Everybody was all over Mickelson in the beginning, and I was reading a lot more, just not the newspapers, but a lot more stuff that he was putting out there. And all along, I was like, you know what? When he first did it, I think we all came down really hard on him. But then, of course, when all of a sudden the PGA finds all this money, and all of a sudden the purses get bigger, and all these guys, the Rory McIlroys and the guys that badmouth Mickelson in the beginning, they're going to regret it because he's going to improve their tour. He's going to improve the PGA and get them more money. And the bottom line is they're going to figure a way that the Live Tour and the PGA somehow share events, somehow do like the USFL and the NFL did, where, hey, when these guys get too good for the USFL, they can go play in the NFL, like Warren Moon, like Herschel Walker, and you're going to see more younger kids who don't get their PGA Tour card getting an opportunity on the Live Tour to eventually come back and play some PGA events, if the PGA allows that. And I think eventually they will. To me, I say the same thing. The USFL gave the NFL an opportunity to watch players develop, maybe come back from injuries, and all of a sudden there were a few gems. A couple Hall of Famers came out of there.
That's right.
Well, Jim Kelly. I mean, come on. There were some pretty big names that came out of the USFL. I think the Live Tour has the opportunity to do the same thing and work alongside the PGA and not necessarily be a deterrent if the PGA and the Live Tour figure out a way to work together.
I'm disappointed because you want to see those top 10 guys battle against each other. And when you went to Pebble or Torrey, you knew they would all be there for that. The stars came out, as they said, but I think the game's in trouble a little bit because we'll see how sponsorship goes. I mean, the ratings have to be plummeting for, I watch the Golf Channel every night. I click it on once in a while to get an update. Even that's boring at this point because they're not allowed to talk about Live. They don't even reference it really. So, and then the Live guys are only playing once every 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if that, because they're making so much money they don't even need to play. So
I'll be curious to see who shows up for the Phoenix Open for this Open, the Waste Management. And listen, if I'm a golf guy and I'm a top player, I want to play in this atmosphere in Phoenix and in the Waste Management tournament.
Because absolutely.
It's got to be fun for them to kind of let their hair down a little bit and have some fun with it. And that's the only reason, T, I didn't go to the Super Bowl this year is because the management tournament was there also. And I was not going to go deal with all that traffic and all that craziness. I'd rather sit home and watch, I can have both TVs on, watching the golf and watching the football, get the replays, see all the players, and of course, see the Super Bowl commercials, which is the most important.
Right. I lived out there for a minute in Chandler, and the one of the times I happened to be there, Super Bowl and of course Waste Management. I mean, that Scottsdale was like paralyzed. You couldn't even get around. I mean, they were get in it or get out of it, but it's a cool concept. I like it a lot. Back to Pebble Beach before we move on. When Jack Nicklaus, the greatest, says, if I had to play one more round of golf in my life, I would choose Pebble Beach because it's the greatest course ever. You sometimes wonder, are these golfers spoiled now because they know they could just go and come as they please? They're in private jets. I think one of the last things Arnold Palmer was talking about was so much money in the game. Now there's so much more that there's not even the kill to win anymore as much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, anytime the money gets big, you lose some of that, the reality of, hey, you know what? I owe it to be at this tournament. You know
Yeah.
what? I don't care how much money I got, how much I've made. This is Pebble Beach. This is, the Pebble Beach Open. I mean, it's a historic event. It's something that as a player, you should be at. Like, and again, a guy like Jack Nicklaus saying something like that.
Yeah.
It's what it is. And unfortunately, you're right. I mean, guys making the kind of money they're making, most of the reason we played and we grunted it out and we went through the hard times is because, yes, we wanted to make money to take care of our families. But there were also times that, you wanted to play. When I went to Boston, I wanted to be in the game because I wanted to play, in the Green Monster.
Well, as Robin would say, it's great theater. You want to
Yeah.
be part of the great theater. It's just you don't get that every week. So I'm just surprised. Speaking of theater and money, Mr. Brady, the GOAT, decided finally he's going to retire, and he did it over Twitter or Facebook or a message. And today he announced, Jimmy, and I know you know this, that he's going to take a year off and hang and chill out and probably spend some time and straighten out, enjoy his family, and maybe straighten out what he went through. But he is going to be in the booth because he's sharp as a fox, and he's going to Fox News for $375 million for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Timing.
wow. $375 million, Jimmy, to announce a football game of people that will never be as great as he is. So that should be an interesting take.
Yeah, the timing of it is perfect for him. I understand. You and I have been through divorces. We know what it's like to the kids. I'm hoping he takes the year off and really spend some time with these kids and try to explain to them what's going on and why mommy and daddy are splitting, and really make sure these kids are okay. I think that's important. I think that's what every good father should do. And I do think, it is amazing that he's going to make more money in a booth in 10 years than he did during a 23-year NFL career.
I should say it's shocking, but it's not shocking. But
here's my question: is he going to be Carlos Beltran? Or is he
right,
going to be
frozen pizza? Right? Yeah. I don't know. They don't know, and he's the. They're talking about Olsen and being so good, and he's now is Brady taking his spot? Are they gonna have to settle for a 3-man booth? I think they should to ease him into it. But this, one of the hardest things is for the Hall of Famers, the greats of the game, to either manage and or announce, because they look through the eyes of how they played the game. Well, they played the game at another level than everybody when you're the best.
And that's just it. And that's where guys like Tony Romo shine.
Right.
Because he wasn't, he never lived up to his potential. He never, he knows his failures. And so usually the guys that have failed the most are the best kind of announcers because they know the other side.
Yep.
The guys that, I don't think Derek Jeter would be very good in the booth.
But or owning a team.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a different situation. I don't know about if anybody could have done much with Miami. But I'm saying more from the standpoint of how the game came to him as easy as it did.
Right.
He didn't have to go through, again, I'm not saying he had it perfect, but he had it pretty good. But I think that's the hardest thing, is to really find someone who can be that good in the booth, that had so much success on the field. Really hasn't been done in broadcasting. And John Madden, what was the one? Don Meredith.
Yep.
Guys,
Gifford.
Yeah, Frank Gifford. These guys were, they were good, but they weren't the greatest.
Right.
Roger Staubach couldn't do it.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
and Boomer, if Boomer and Phil Simms, we watch them every Sunday. Howie Long, Michael Strahan, these were all greats, but they're on a 5-person panel.
Yeah.
So they get to play off of each other. To have to do the analysis and the play-by-play of every play, you better have a good right arm in there to bail you out if you're not,
And Fox has it tough because this Olsen guy, he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people talking, what are they going to do? How are they going to after what this guy had done this postseason, how are you not going to bring him back in some capacity?
Wasn't he calling the Super Bowl? He's calling the Super Bowl.
Oh, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So he's calling all these games. And the bottom line is that's the one good thing I think Brady taking the year off gives Fox a chance to go, okay, maybe we do go with the 3-man booth.
Right.
But 375 million.
375, brother.
Yeah,
375. I mean, that's legacy money there,
Oh, yeah.
And
and the good thing is she gets none of that.
And that might be the reason he took a year off to make sure that's settled. She's off with her karate or probably
yoga instructor. Yeah.
What is he? What kind of instructor?
I think he was yoga instructor or something like
Yoga
that.
or something. God bless.
Yeah.
But she's not hurting either. She's worth about $400 million herself. But I root for Tom Brady. We always joke around. He's too good looking. He's too great, and everything just lands in his lap. But he's a man. He's a human being, and both of them. I see she wished him all the best and was excited for him. And nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. But
Exactly.
You root for people. You don't root against them. Hey, speaking of rooting for people, Mr. Cohen, in the news, Mr. Billionaire, and he's got to win some World Series first, but he is the new George Steinbrenner on the block. What are your thoughts on that? He's the rookie, but he's got more money than everybody. So does that make you not a rookie with the owners, or these owners are so wealthy they don't care? But rumor has it that they were giving him a hard time a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he came out the other day and talked about it, and he said that he's tired of hearing it. That the bottom line is Major League Baseball has rules, and he's playing by the rules. If he spends more money, he has to pay a bigger luxury tax. He doesn't care. Guess what? His hedge funds had the best year ever this past year.
That's
so
right.
He's going to spend more and more money because he has it. And the bottom line is, listen, it still means Buck Showalter has to win. It still means that there's still that pressure of New York. It's still about getting to the World Series. And everybody was disappointed. Even though they had 102 wins last year, everyone in the Mets family was disappointed the way it ended. And so, yes, there's more money put out. There's more stars bought, coming in. But will it translate on the field? And that's going to be up to Showalter, and that's going to be up to the coaching staff. And I think they can. I think they're going to be strong. But we'll, it remains to be seen. And that's why we play 162 games. But we're already kind of saying they're going to be in because of the playoff situation.
Right.
So
what's your thought there? Are they, it's, what are we, 9 days from pitchers and catchers? I mean, you and I are going to bounce around in spring training again this year, but what's your thoughts on the Mets? Who's the favorite? It's football week, but you know what? Let's stay with our favorite, baseball. Who do you think? I mean, Atlanta's made good moves. I mean, Philadelphia is stronger. Are the Mets, they got two of the greatest studs ever to go on the hump, but are they over the hump? Are they over age at this point? Injuries could come in. What do you think? Where do the Mets stand?
I think they don't have a lot of question marks except for how do they go from the 6th to the 9th and get the ball to Diaz. That's going to be their biggest question mark. And who's going to fill those roles? Because they lost guys that they had that were pretty solid. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I do like their offense. Their offense puts the ball in play. They don't strike out a lot. They all take good approaches. Even their power hitters who, Alonso and them, that when they need a base hit to right field, when the whole right side of the infield's open late in the game, guess what? Pete Alonso hits a ground ball through that side of the infield to give them, a guy on base. I like that kind of baseball. I think that they're the type of team offensively that can play against the number 1, number 2 starters. That is the biggest question mark for the other side of town with the Yankees.
Yeah.
Can they have are they going to have the hitters that put the ball in play, that don't strike out 200, 300 times? And, the elephant in the room is Aaron Hicks, of course. What do we do with him? Do we give him another chance? How short is his rope if the season does start with him in the outfield? And where is Oswaldo Cabrera in the pecking order? If he comes in and has a great spring, does he get to start? So and the bigger question mark is DJ LeMahieu.
Well, from what do we know about him? And you can get to that, but the other question mark obviously is Donaldson. I mean, because they didn't clean that corner up either, the hot corner. So they're stuck with two scenarios, Hicks and Donaldson. But you're right, is DJ healthy enough that he's going to start carrying them a little bit and helping out? What's the word? What do you hear? You were down in Tampa. Any word?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just at the this weekend. I was up in Jersey at the autograph signing with 28 of the former Yankees and a couple guys, the announcers, Michael Kay and John Sterling and them. And it's interesting because they still feel like there's a big trade somewhere.
Yeah.
They feel like there's a couple guys they have to unload that either are timed out, that can't get sent back down, or ready to start pitching in the big league level, and there's no room for them. So it'll be interesting to see if, are they still going to try to make a deal for the outfielder from Pittsburgh? Are they still, what is this going to be, this move? And the bigger question mark, T, is there's two guys out here in Anaheim, California, that one of them for sure is Ohtani, and the New York Mets and Steve Cohen have already said it's a blank check.
Jimmy, you remember the $6 million man?
Yeah.
When we were kids, is he the $500 million man? Is he the first
$500 million guy? I mean, that's, and again, if he leaves, Mike Trout is right behind him.
Right.
Because there's no way Mike Trout is going to sit here waiting for another rebuild, waiting for them to do something, and again, with the ownership situation, with Artie Moreno, not sure he's going to sell. Is he going to sell? What are they going to do? I think the uneasiness of this is really worn on Ohtani, and I think he's going to be gone before June.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think once that happens, Trout walks in and says, "Hey guys, I appreciate it, but I'm going to waive my no trade clause and get me to Philly."
You got that right. I was going to say he's going to Philly. I mean, he was on the sidelines with an Eagle jersey on the other day. Big Eagles fan. I mean, he's a Jersey boy, but he's South Jersey, which is Philadelphia Eagle, Philly country. And boy, if he goes there, you're starting. The game is really starting to look like the NBA. Let's all, what I mean? Let's go where we can win a ring. And I agree with you. Trout's going to go to Philly, and Ohtani, Met. And then what did the Yankees do for an encore at that point? Because they're right smack in the middle of that mess.
And here's part of the reason why all this is happening is the owners, for some reason, with A-Rod, right around A-Rod time, started giving these contracts for 10 years, but giving out clauses.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a minute. If I'm going to guarantee some guy 10 years and pay him this kind of money, I'm not giving him an out clause.
What's the strategy there from an owner standpoint to do that?
It's giving a guy a long contract and thinking, okay, he's probably only going to be good for 5 years of this, and this way I can get out of it, and he'll walk to try to go get a bigger paycheck somewhere else. I mean,
yeah.
But I also think too, T, we're getting to the point where I don't see the money going down much, but I don't see it going up much more than it already has.
You got a $500 million man that's going up.
But here's the thing: this United Baseball League. The Saudis come in, India comes in, all this money that is going to be coming in, Major League Baseball is going to get a piece of it.
Yeah.
They're not going to let that go for nothing. And will the money, because, I think what it is, if 155 billion people in India and in that area, and 100 million of them are subscribed to the MLB network, well, all of a sudden now you got your own teams playing at a minor league, major league level. And, you got a league now like Japan does. And all of a sudden there's a lot of interest. And now Major League Baseball will have satellites that carry the Major League games. So there's just more money coming in.
Does Major League Baseball end up like live in the PGA Tour eventually? Like, does money just outprice themselves to where the popularity goes away?
I think it's going to be. I look at this United Baseball League as having an opportunity to be successful because you're going into territories that have great athletes, but they don't play anything because it's not there. And so you're going to find a couple, with, as they say, diamonds in the rough,
right?
There, but you're also going to have all this money behind it, and all these new satellites going up, and all these different things, and there's going to be a lot of influx of money. I look at it more like Japan, where I think this league will happen. It will survive. And there will be players that want to go play there from the United States because they've worn out, they're not able to play here anymore, just like we've done in Japan. Right. And I think it might have an opportunity to do something like that.
Speaking of players playing, the World Baseball Classic is this year, and the Yankees shut down Severino, told him he's not pitching. They don't, which I think is the right move. Do you? I mean, I know you want to play for your country, but you're getting paid by your team, and he hasn't hacked the old full season yet. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, the bottom line is the guy that didn't pitch a full season, who has an injury, has injuries. There is no possible way that if hey, you want to go play, give me your contract back.
Yeah.
After it's over with and you're healthy, hey, maybe we'll bring you back. But we're not signing off on giving you the opportunity to get hurt when we're paying you.
Right.
And I think that's a difficult decision for a lot of the teams. But again, for guys that have been healthy, that's fine. But guys that have come off injuries, guys that are coming off injuries, I think the teams have to take the hard stance and say, hey, no, look what happened to Teixeira.
Yep.
Missed half the season because of an injury in the World Baseball Classic. So there's certain guys that, I totally get the teams taking a hard stance and saying, hey, not on my watch, not while you have a contract with us.
Speaking of the greats of the game, managing and or going in the booth, Mike Piazza is managing Italy, as we know, and your friend is involved in that, and Robin's probably rooting for Italy. But you think Piazza ever manages or bench coaches and tries to aspire to be a manager in the big leagues? Why is he managing Italy? Is it a sentimental thing, or is he really involved?
Yeah, I don't know Mike very well, so I can't speak for, only what I think possibly. I don't think he wants to be involved on an everyday basis on 162 games.
Yeah.
That type of schedule again. I think he enjoys probably what he's doing in his life right now. He doesn't need the money, obviously. But I do think the opportunity to coach and manage a team that's your country is a pretty cool thing to be able to do.
Great.
Or
is he setting the groundwork to be Buck's replacement? Is Cohen going to be that kind of guy that brings the greats back to the team? We want to manage Girardi, people like that.
Well, that brings us to our conversation you had off air before this, is that no, Piazza's not next in line. And they just hired a guy who was in the Yes Network booth last year and who has gone through scandals, who they had to fire because of the scandal 2 years ago.
I don't get it.
They brought him back as an assistant to the general manager in the front office for the New York Mets. I think, yes, that's maybe a possibility of a future. But I do think this. I do think as much as Carlos Beltran was horrible on the network, obviously not ready to do TV, obviously can't do TV. I do think he's back in a role where he will thrive. I do think that he is good with young players, especially Latin players that he can communicate to. Everybody that I talked to last year from the Yankees that spoke with Carlos on a baseball level said he belongs in the dugout. He belongs with the team in that capacity. He doesn't belong in a radio or TV booth, which was very obvious. So
it was almost setting him up to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
He was that bad. But we are obviously all for second chances. But can we be consistent with the second chances? Some people get the death penalty, and other people, even including A-Rod, 2, 3. I don't know if he's as popular since J-Lo left him, but I mean, because he was, you don't see him as much. But what's your feeling on that? Is it too soon for these guys to get these second chances? I mean, or was that scandal just a bunch of BS slapped on the wrist, let them keep the trophy in the ring? And Houston, they won a couple years later. They won last year. So what's the difference? Now
that's the argument.
Surfacing.
That's the argument you get into, especially being a former player. We didn't think the scandal was that big of a deal,
right?
As former players. We actually said, hey, listen, you asked for the technology in the game.
Yeah, good for you.
And somebody figured it out.
You figured it out. Right.
We have different ways of communicating pitch selection, whether we be on second base and we watch the signs and we give it to the hitter, or whether catcher sets up too soon and we give positions. It's always been part of the game of figuring out. We have people watching the third base coaches give the signs and figuring that out. And that's why during the season, your third base coach changes his signs at least 10 times during a season. What about when a guy gets traded? Oh, hey, I remember their signs. Willie Randolph used to give these signs. I got traded. I could tell my team that I'm going to, hey, these are their signs. So whenever they played us, guess what? They had to change their signs. So it's been part of the game. It's been part of it as a former player.
You were one of the best pitches.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that cheating?
Exactly. That's what I always said to people. I go, it's a situation that they got caught. They got caught. And because of the technology, because of everything else, I tipped my hat. I said, geez, if the catcher could not hear them banging on a garbage can and figure that out,
right?
Shame on him, not shame on the Astros. Yeah. So I never thought the scandal was that big of a deal. I did think, of course, when you do get caught, there are going to be some consequences, and I think the 1-year suspension was pretty good for all of them. But they're back in the game now. Alex Cora's back. Everybody's back. So to give Beltran this job, yeah, you kind of shake your head and go, is this really what we're doing? But at the same time, I do feel this guy is qualified to work with other players, to work with especially the Latino players, and has the respect of them. And I think he'll be in a good position there with the Mets.
I'm getting the text. I'm answering it from one of our good friends and family, and he's saying, okay, Leyritz, give us your expert opinion. Who is winning the Super Bowl? You said you're rooting for the Eagles, but do you believe the Eagles are going to win?
Yeah, that's right. I told you earlier, I'm not betting on who wins or loses. But you know what? If I have to, I've been picking against Philly all year, and I'm sorry, but my New York Giants fans, I apologize in advance, but I'm rooting for Philly, and I'm picking Philly.
I'm with you, man. I mean, we are on New Jersey, and although we're blue up here for the Giants, the Eagles are a fun team to watch. Yeah. They got a nice young coach, a great coach, and he's up at the dais the other day with his 3 kids, and it's exciting. And then I don't know, I respect the hell out of Andy Reid, but I'm not a Chiefs fan either. I don't know what it is. I can't, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I feel like Mahomes like a LeBron. Do you want to root against him because he's so good? I just don't know. But what are you hearing about his ankle? Is he, as an athlete, you're going to do everything. You're not missing that game. And does the adrenaline really take over, Jimmy, with a shot? Let's call it like it is. You get a couple shots and a little adrenaline.
Well, again, here's where we are in this new world that we're in as far as what players are allowed and allowed not to do. And stem cell treatment, PRPs all week. I mean, he had a fortunate thing for 2 weeks. He could go through these treatments. He could get in the hyperbaric chambers, get in the freeze chambers. There's so many things players can do nowadays to heal injuries quicker. He had a bad sprain. It was ligament. It wasn't a broken bone. It wasn't something that takes time to completely reheal. And with all of these different remedies that they have nowadays, in a 2-week period, you can come back pretty quickly. But I do think if I'm the Philadelphia defensive coach, hey guys, go at that ankle as much as you can all game.
Yeah, I don't think he's running away from them like he usually would. That's going to be the difference. It'll be interesting to see early on if they put a lot of pressure on him blitzing, and we'll get back to this. The Kelsey brothers playing against. You ever watch their podcast? It's hysterical. Those two.
I've never seen it. No.
Oh my God, they're hysterical, and I mean he's a stud too. The brother's the center, and he's just fast and tough and strong, and so that'll be an interesting dynamic of the whole game there.
I do think unfortunately we lose a little bit of the fun because they're both offensive players,
right?
And we're not going to see
that. You're right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. God knows at a lower level, Eddie and I played against each other in a softball league once on different teams. I found myself rooting for my brother. I couldn't root against my brother. And I wonder what these guys now. They want to win the Super Bowl, but are they really disappointed if the other one wins? It's especially since he has one already.
Well, here's the thing.
They both have one, yes, right?
Well, here's the other thing. They don't play the same position,
right?
Which is fortunate. If they both played offensive end, and they wouldn't. I don't think. Maybe they would root for each other to have a good game. As a center, you're not rooting for your brother, tight end, to have a good game because that means you're probably losing.
You're losing. You're right. Hey, Jimmy, how about when you guys are coming off the field saying your brother's kicking the crap out of me, he's holding me, he's doing this? What do you feel in your heart there? Like, is it screw you, that's my brother, forget you're my teammate? Like, or it's going to be interesting because he's punishing people out there too. I mean, he's not scoring touchdowns, but he's laying people out. And I watched the video of him the other day, blocked the guy right off the sidelines. I mean, you do that in Pop Warner. You don't do that in the pros, but he's just crushing people. I think that's going to be fun to watch. What do you think is the TV audience up, middle? This is a holiday now. We know that. People maybe people get together. They don't even care who's playing anymore. But I don't feel the hype in our area. You feeling the hype out in California? The Rams were in the Super Bowl not too long ago. Do you feel the hype of the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah. I think like I said, this is 2 number 1 teams from both divisions. It's the number. It doesn't happen very often that the 2 favorites play each other. And again, you're not talking about 2 small little cities. KC is a huge football city, football town, and of course Philadelphia is Philadelphia. I do think the matchup is the NFL Network, or the Fox or whatever, is a matchup they love. I do think that if Cincinnati would have won, even though I wanted them to win, it would not have been a bigger ratings as this Kansas City thing will be. So I do think that from a TV standpoint, that this might be one of the higher rated Super Bowls that we have.
Really? I'm interested to see what it is. And going back to after that game, you go into like a 3-week, almost month, though, nothing going on in the sports world. Spring training's coming, but, that's okay.
Spring training.
Hot stove for the most part is over. Will somebody land one more big trade? Will the free agents that are left out there are possibly going to be hanging in the balance to after spring training until the season starts and somebody goes down with an injury and or the trade deadline? Just for fun, since we have the 2 number 1 teams playing in the Super Bowl, who are we picking as the number 1 team in the National League and who are we picking as the number 1 team in the American League to start?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I've got to, you got to go with the Mets in the NL East. I just think from an overall spending standpoint that, they brought in their pitching staff besides Verlander and of course Scherzer is pretty outstanding.
Yeah.
Those additions have been great. I know Schnicker got a new contract for managing the Braves, but the Braves haven't done much. They've lost. They have Swanson.
Yep.
They lost Duvall. They've lost some pretty big names that were important to their teams. So I think that's going to be. I don't think they're going to be as strong. So I give the Mets. I give that Mets that division, but I do think Philly is going to make some moves. And so they'll be right in there.
It's probably an Eagle. We were going to pick the Phillies for God's sakes.
But I do think it's going to be probably the Mets from that division. But again, I look at the West and the Padres, the moves they've made.
Right.
You look at this team, and again with the DH, and then picking up, the guys that they have. That team is I think it's gonna replace the Dodgers this year as a first place team.
Agreed. Soto stay? What's your thought on that?
What's that?
Is Soto staying, you think?
Oh yeah, I think Soto stays. I think with bringing in Nelson Cruz is a great addition.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be more of a leader in that clubhouse as the veteran guy, and he'll have a presence over Soto and over Machado. And I just think, like I said, I just think that team is finally into the point where they will probably replace the Dodgers as the number one team out of the West.
Who are you picking in the American League? Houston Defender to our Yankees or
I don't think so. Yeah. I like the Yankees. I think the Yankees, their pitching staff has gotten better, and it was pretty good last year. And I do think that they have a great. I do think they've got to change their offensive mindset. They need to put the ball in play more. They need to cut down on the strikeouts. And I do think that that's going to be an emphasis on some of the new hitting coaches that are here. But I think baseball wise, we're slowly getting away from the sabermetrics as being the end all be all.
Agreed. Thank God.
And thank God. Yeah. I mean, it's a situation that has to change, that we cannot accept strikeouts as being okay. We got to see guys put the ball in play. We got to see guys move runners over, get back to playing baseball, and not this little computer, okay, make your lineup before the game starts because of this and that and this. And don't look at the guys that have been hot. Don't look at the guys who are swinging a good bat, or pitchers that are just shutting guys down. Well, he pitched last night, so we can't go to him because of the sabermetric. I think that's changing. So I'm excited for that point. And like I said, we'll see what happens. But I think, I do think the Yankees, I do think they're probably going to be the favorite. But you can't count out Houston. But I think losing Verlander is a huge loss for that team.
Yeah, I agree. He's a horse. I mean, although he was hurt, coming off injured season, but he knows he's a winner. That's the bottom line. He knows how to win.
But anytime you got a guy like that coming back from Tommy John, a veteran who's already accomplished what he's accomplished, and these younger pitchers seeing his work ethic, seeing how hard he, at age 42 or whatever, the time and effort he's still putting in.
Yep.
It always makes a pitching staff better. It makes other guys work harder. And they lost that. And the question is whether or not they have enough, the new guys have enough grit and, wherewithal to be able to make up for the loss of Justin Verlander.
Who's opening day pitcher, Justin or Max?
It's got to be Scherzer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gotta be out of respect or.
Listen, he's already been there. He's been the workhorse. And I think honestly, I think Justin Verlander is perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. Yep.
He wants an opportunity to win another title. And I think it's an opportunity for him to be able to be part of another winning team and be a big part of it.
I always wanted to ask you this question: when you're the number one, and I think I'm correct in this, when you're pitching, most of the time you're going against the other team's number one, correct?
Yeah, usually in the first half of the season, it works out that way. Yeah.
Right. Is that, like, what's the strategy behind that? You're throwing your best against their best, and sometimes he'll go out there and go all out in a balls out game, and lose the game 1-0 because his counterpart is just as good.
Yeah, I mean
They throw up 7 or 8 on the second and third starter.
that is one of the negatives about being the guy.
Yeah.
And and you can see it. I mean, DeGrom, the year that he won the Cy Young, was going up, and he lost more games than what was he, 11-10 the year he won the Cy Young?
I know.
But giving up 1.4, 1 point whatever it was per game, but yet you still have 10 losses. That's hard because he's going up against the number one every single night.
Since you're retired now, and I'm not asking you to expose anybody, when your guy, especially with Andy Pettit, who was a gamer of all gamers, they ever get frustrated when the team ain't putting up runs for them?
Oh, of course, it gets frustrating.
Or what do they just shut their mouth? What do they do?
You know what? It's not so much. Listen, the offensive players, when they're struggling like that, they feel just as bad.
Right. Okay.
And I can remember guys like Tom Glavine and the guys telling stories about, hey, just get me one. Just get me one. Because the team would be struggling so bad. They'd be like, just give me one and I'm good there. But I do think it's probably more frustrating for the pitcher because he is going out there he knows that he's not always going to have his best. But right. and that's kind of a good thing too, because he knows sometimes that team's going to bail him out too.
What's the team appreciate more, when their pitcher goes out and throws a gem and it's 1-0 they win, or when he gives up 4 in the first inning and he guts it out for 6 or 7 more innings and keeps them in the game?
Well, for me personally, I like that guy better. I like the guy. I like the Jack Morrises and even Andy Pettit. Andy had a high ERA all the time. Andy had a 3.5 to 4.3 every year. He gave up some runs. But for me, it's a guy like that gives up a couple and it says, you know what, let me just get through this inning and I'll settle down. And I like that guy much better.
You excited for this year's baseball season, or you'll talk about that next week after the Super Bowl? I mean, is football out of your? But Giants had a good year. Jets had a good year. We got 6-7 minutes to go. What's your thought? Giants season success or?
100%. It's the first time in 6 years that we had an opportunity to root for a team in September.
That's right.
I'm sorry, in February.
Right.
Or actually January. But the bottom line is, to watch the season, to get past week 5, which is usually our kicking point. It was great to watch. I think they had a very successful season. I think hopefully they re-sign Barkley and Daniel Jones. And if they do that, I think that, listen, there's a great opportunity to have a good draft and draft some other linemen and some other people to protect Daniel Jones and to give Barkley a little more running room. I think the Giants are in a great position. And of course, we love our new coach. It was been such a year. Yeah. I think it was a great year. And I even think the Jets had a great year.
Well, a good lead-in. Are you tired of the Aaron Rodgers story? If not, that's all that's been smothered around New York, that he's coming to the Jets. Do you foresee that happening?
It sounds like he's ready to make a move and go somewhere.
I think they're tired of him.
Yeah, I do think that. I do. I truly believe that. I believe that it's almost at a point where it's time to get divorced.
Yeah.
And I think there's an opportunity in Las Vegas. There's an opportunity with the Jets.
Where do you think Carr ends up, Jimmy? Where do you think Derek Carr ends up? Speaking of Vegas,
he might slide into Tampa Bay.
You think so, huh?
Yeah, there might be an opportunity. It's a team that's close to winning.
Yep.
They have a good core. They have a couple good receivers. So you're coming into you're not coming into a situation where you don't have anybody to throw to. So that could be a landing point. And then of course, there's a few teams saying, there's a few teams out here. San Francisco's looking, if Purdy looks like he's going to be out now, unfortunately.
What a disaster, huh?
It's a shame. Yeah. You hate to see.
People even watch after that happened. I mean, that was just terrible. Let me ask you this real quick. We talk about Steve Cohen, we talk about Steinbrenner, when you build a franchise, you don't sit there and go, if our number one and even our number two, don't we want to pay some serious money from some serious backup at that point? Like, I understand not paying a lot of money if you're that middle class team, but the 49ers, the Eagles, the Cowboys, even the Giants at this point, don't you go and get yourself a guy that's still got 4 years left and pay him buku money just in case you got to break the window for the fire extinguisher?
Well, here's the situation. Of course, they were down to their fourth string quarterback, which no one plans on.
Right.
At the same time, I don't know who makes the decision to only go with two quarterbacks on the roster that day.
That's insane.
And then the big question I have, and again, I'm unfortunately not on the NFL Network. I would have asked the question of, I watched Cafferty throw one ball. He threw pretty good.
Well, what did you have to lose?
Yeah. I mean, how can you not run? There had to be a few more guys on that roster that were a high school quarterback that got changed to another position. There had to be somebody that could throw the ball because there was no possible way for them to run it. And to me, that was the biggest question that I had. Like, isn't there someone on this? And again, Cafferty was there.
Yeah.
Why not run a Wildcat and let him throw the ball a few times and do some short yardage things? But again, it's not something that you go into this game expecting, especially for a quarterback like Purdy, who had just entirely changed your season around out of the blue.
And what's his status? I mean, what are they saying for next year? He's done?
It looks like he's having possibly Tommy John surgery.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, talk about a bad break, if you will. Here this kid comes 7-0 and gets hurt. It's just I don't know. And then Garofalo, he's always hurt. So shouldn't you have prepared that he was gonna get hurt? And it'll be interesting. They got a good team. I love their franchise. I love their coach. I love John Lynch, the GM. It's just it's interesting. But yeah, it'll be exciting offseason, see what the Jets and Giants do. You know that though, up here they don't want to see the Eagles win. Nobody wants to see the Eagles win. But the Eagles, that city's enjoying baseball. They had a great baseball year. They're having a great football year. They're in the Super Bowl. So we wish our South Jersey fans a lot of luck. I never thought I'd hear the king root for the Eagles, but I feel the same way. What the hell? I'm just not a Chiefs guy. I know our friend Victor Rojas is Kansas City boy. I know he's rooting for them hard, but it's good to be back. We've been off for a little bit doing a lot of stuff. We're still going to do Monday and Fridays to spring training. Looking forward to baseball this year again, Jimmy. I don't know. It'll be fun to see if Mr. Judge can rise to the occasion again. But we'll be back Friday, and you got 3 days to change your mind about the Super Bowl pick.
Nope. I want my division to win. I want to be able to say we got beat by the Super Bowl champs in our division.
Oh, that's like Little League stuff, for God's sakes. You've been listening and watching to On New Jersey. It's good to be back. The King and the Cop, Tommy Cetnar, for Jimmy Leyritz and Robin DiLauri. Good night, everyone. Stay safe. We'll see you Monday. By the way, Jim, we didn't talk about the big balloon. We'll have to hit that on Friday.
Yes.
What